you do things that you may not know that you do to make yourself feel comfortable, whether it's closing your eyes or looking away,
putting the sheets over and turning off all of the lights, and you're going, I can't even see anything.
Like,
why am I
even kissing?
The millennial generation is as follows.
Welcome to
Surrounded by Idiots
Radio Podcast.
All right, hang on to your hats and whatever else is loose-fitting clothing. It is time for the Surrounded by Idiots Radio Podcast, and this week we're going back to the Walk of Shame version with our lovely relationship expert, soon-to-be doctor. I'm assuming you're going back to school and you're going to be doing that stuff. Lexi Rodriguez, along with your host, Tony Dufresne. Hey, how you doing? Hey, Lex, how you doing?
Good. Don't mind the hat if you guys are watching this via YouTube, because I was telling Tony that this is why I don't do motherfucking girly shit, because it always backfires on me. So I went and got a facial, and then I went and got my eyebrows done, and maybe I just know that mixture together. Maybe no one ever told me growing up that maybe I shouldn't do that. So I got an allergic reaction on my face to the wax because I think my pores were so open and clean from the facial, and that's why I don't venture off into that world, because it's like chemistry. You can't mix certain things together without getting gnarly reaction. So now I'm rocking a hat for the next probably week, because I literally have a swollen forehead. Like, I look like I get beat.
The first thing is your prop in your studio, which I think is there's a double meaning there. The second thing is you should just go to my girl. She's wonderful. She's delicate, and when she rips it off, you feel things.
You get your eyebrows waxed?
No, I don't. I'm just fucking with you.
I was like, oh, God.
No, so of course not. But you do have to trim the caterpillars, because you don't want the uni, and you don't want something that's going to overtake your face.
Speaking of getting waxed.
Good transition. Okay, first of all, for everybody out there, wait, where'd you go?
Here I go. Here I am. Sorry.
You're killing me, man. So for everybody out there, we were going to talk about this story that Lex had, because she was talking to this lady who's been divorced 12 times, and she's giving her dating advice, which just seems very, very, I don't know, nonsensical. But then we rolled into something about sex, and I think it's a better topic today. And I think the topic is going to be about the Big O, and because I have a question for you about this.
Oh, man, we're just getting right into it. Can I just premise this for our listeners? That Tony will chat, and he'll be like, so what's up? And I'll be like, nothing. But have you ever thought about, or he'll be like, so what do you think? And I'll text him like, let's talk about sex. And he'll just be like, okay, what about sex? And I go,
it's such a specific subject, right?
So you guys get the raw, full first version of conversation. We honestly don't even make that many edits, as a lot of podcasters do.
We actually don't.
Perfect.
I make very few edits.
Oh, I can tell, because when I say something stupid in my head, I'm like, fuck, I hope he edits that, and then you don't, and I'm like, cool, here I am, just naked for the world to see.
Welcome, world.
Cool.
Yes.
All right, sorry.
But that's
Let's
good.
Get into
All right,
it.
so here's what I want to throw at you, because we're talking right before the show, and you were talking about. I said, anything specific about sex that you want to chat about? You said, well, not really, but. And you're talking about orgasms, and 30%. You said 30% of women have never had an orgasm.
So,
and then before you roll into that, I want to throw something out to you, and you can chew on both of these things. Okay. My question to you is this, and it's something that I've been around a long time, and I've been around for a while. And my question is that, of course, from a guy's perspective, we our top of the mountain is obviously the climax, that's why they call it that, right? And that's the best part. That's literally the best part. And of course, there's very, very gradient levels of sex based on your level of intimacy with a person, or where you're at in terms of just where you're at. I mean, where your animal is at that point. But all that being said, the orgasm is really something that the majority of the time, that's what the man is sort of building to. Sometimes it doesn't happen, and that's fine.
Most of the time, right? But like, don't quote these percentages, but we'll go from personal experience.
Yeah, most of the time that's the case.
A guy has an
However,
orgasm.
I've been in circumstances where women don't on certain occasions. They don't every single time.
Ask the question, because then I have tons of questions.
Yeah, my question is that do you personally Is that an objective for you every single time? And if you don't, is it unsatisfying?
Yes. And the next one I'll have to get into a little bit deeper. But yes, absolutely it is. And I think that that's why this topic came to mind, was that I was listening to The Skinny Confidential, one of a really cool podcast. It's fucking hilarious. It's this girl and her boyfriend, both entrepreneurs, both very successful in the fit world. Then they had Emily, Sex with Emily, on their show. She's another podcaster. So they just were getting into this very open, vulnerable conversation. And they brought up the percentage that only fucking 70% of women have orgasms. So 30% don't. And I was just thinking, like, why? So there are so many women out there having sex and being intimate that aren't having an orgasm. And so those women either are very empathetic to the sexual experience, like they're just like, I'm just gonna feel this with you, and when you have an orgasm, I'll, if we're done, and they're just okay with it. But or they're just having sex with no kind of finish line, is what I'm saying. And to me, there's always a, an input and an output. It's like, if I'm having sex, I'm gonna, whatever the benefit's gonna be, I'm gonna release some stress. I'm going to, feel a little bit more confidence. I'm going to clear my mind for 20 minutes, for 30 minutes. There's a reason I'm doing something. The input is maybe I'm feeling fucking really attracted to my man.
Okay.
But the output is he makes me feel just as good as I was feeling.
But do you have to reach the O to feel
I
that?
personally do.
Okay.
But then if I don't, I'll get into the second part of that, is if I don't, there are certain times where I'm like, okay with it. It still felt good. I get it. Like, it doesn't happen all the time. I'm very aware of my body and the way it functions. And there's a million gazillion things it could have been. I'm not the type that's going to go home and be like, oh my God, the relationship is over. But gentlemen, pay attention, is like, if it happens too much where I'm not having an orgasm, and trust me, there will be moments I think maybe it's me, but if it's too consistent, I'm going to be like, okay, maybe the sexual chemistry of this relationship isn't rewarding to both of us. Yeah,
but wouldn't you have a open level of communication with the guy at the time and just say, hey, will you do something else to me, or will you?
Well, yeah, totally, but maybe
that
not.
That you
okay,
can...
so this is another good topic, is like, when some people aren't that comfortable so soon. So the point of these shows that I was listening to was to get the women to be more comfortable to speak up and communicate. What I want to bring to the table is, well, what's the problem in the first place? It's not communication, because if you're having sex with this guy, I mean, hopefully go to our next podcast and listen, that you feel comfortable enough to communicate. So if you've communicated what you want, because you guys communicate as a couple. So I don't think you have to feel more comfortable enough to tell them what you want. I think they need to know what you want.
Totally
or
disagree.
You shouldn't be having sex with them.
Completely and utterly. Oh, good. This is a disagreement period. Completely disagree, because what happens is that you try to be as attentive to the person as you possibly can, and that's about a relationship and growing. But it depends upon what point in the relationship that you're at. And also contextual, because you might have had a day where something's on your mind or the situation, and you're just not dialing totally into it. And you get into a situation where, when you're having sex, is that you want to, I think the majority of people, and I'm going to speak for the majority of people here that are listening, at least listening to the show, I think they want to please the person that they're with. They want to make them feel as good as possible.
Right.
And so
with that, if you're striking out and unaware consistently, then you need to check yourself.
Yeah, but then this is what happens. Then there's a chance of the fake orgasm happening, which is way worse than nothing or not talking about it. I'm telling you right now, you guys.
That's what we should title this show: How to Prevent the Fake Orgasm.
Don't fake an O. Just don't, because it doesn't benefit anybody if you do that, because the guy. I tell you, there's telltale signs where you can tell where it's fake. And then...
Is there times that you can tell when it's fake and you're just looking at the girl like, you motherfucker?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. It's happened to me.
How does that... That's crazy. I would love to see I would love to be in your head when that's happening, because isn't part of you like a little bit like, seriously, you think I'm that stupid? And isn't part of you, your ego's kind of like, fuck, why didn't she have an orgasm? And then isn't part of you like, she just faked a fucking orgasm to stop having sex with me?
Yeah, it's sort of it's a dissonance, right? It's a battle in your brain, because the first thing you think is that, well, she wants me to feel good that I did that to her, but maybe she's not feeling it, or maybe it's just she's too tired.
So you're like, oh, how
or maybe,
sweet.
So well, and you can think that, wow, she's faking it, because either it could go either way, right? It could go to where she wants to end it, or it could go to where she wants you to feel good that you've done that to her.
Have you ever faked an orgasm?
Yes, I have.
Damn.
Yeah. And I tell you right now, guys,
that would fuck with me.
Guys that I did it. They never could tell. Yes, I said they. It's been more than one girl, and that was actually a long time ago. I haven't for a long, long time, because I haven't needed to. But that's when you're with girls that you shouldn't be with anyway, and then it was just. Plus, there's also situations that come up.
Totally.
I mean, you're,
so then this
you're
goes
growing
back
up,
to
and it's
like,
a whiskey dick thing, and it's also, if you're pissed off at your girlfriend. A lot of times I had one girlfriend that just liked to angry screw. I mean, if she was pissed, she'd like to. She actually told me. She told me, I love getting in fights because I have the best sex when I'm pissed off at you.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
that makes
that's
sense.
functional.
The psychology behind that is crazy, though, because
Yeah,
it's obviously it goes so much deeper. And this is why I think you have to be careful. I think you have to be careful as you are. Like, you don't think about this when you're in high school and you're just like horny and all of a sudden have boobs and like guys are attracted to you, and you're just like, wow, this is kind of fun. But I think that if we have any parents listening, or pregnant women that are worried about how their fetus is going to act when it's 14, I think it's really super important. You like how I was
that's way wide, but go ahead.
I think it's super important though to pay attention as we're developing our sexual side of the brain, and we're developing these sexual patterns. It's super, super important to start off right and start off communicating. And it sounds crazy. I'm literally talking to like the 15-year-old Alexis is like, I like grew up pretty fast when it came to relationships. And I think that's why I'm where I am now. But back then, man, some of the shit I went through sexually, intimately, even just mentally in a relationship with another human being was like pretty impactful on the way that I continued to date.
But that's how it's going to be. It's good, and that's the whole point. The point is that if you're young and you're going through experience, everybody's different and every situation is different. Even if you're with a person, one day or 1 week will be different than the next week. And it's a matter of this. The matter is that there's no right or wrong way to do it. And you have to ask yourself the question, is this for me or is this for them or is it for both of us? Because a lot of times you go in, especially with guys, and if they're young, they're going to go in thinking, I just want to get laid. That's why they're out at the bar, hitting on you and putting the beer goggles on at 2:30. That's why they're doing it. Because they just want to get off on it. They want a person
right,
there.
But the girl that's going to go home with that guy isn't developed as she should if she's going to go home with that guy.
Well, I'm not.
And that's fine.
Yes or no.
You
because
learn as you go.
There's a good chance that you're out there at 2:30 and you guys get as horny as we do. And
no,
maybe
totally.
maybe
I get it.
Maybe you want to go home and get it. Or
but why not shoot for the next best thing?
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. But the entire point of Tinder is that. I mean, it was that. It has expanded a little bit. But I'm saying that's. If you want to go out and do that, that's fine. But I think there has to be an understanding where you just got to take the pressure off. Quit overthinking the room.
Totally.
And if you get into a situation, the key is to just come from in any situation. But let's just talk sex for this particular instance. It's about coming from yourself and just being true to who you are and understanding you're not the only one in the room. Or you're not the only one in the bed. So if you're going to go into it for your own self gratification. Then understand that there's another person, another human being next to you, and they should have as good of an experience that you do. And if you go in with that, that energy is going to go towards them, and you're going to be much more attentive because you're going to be.
But it's more than that, though, because that's
signals.
hard. So the thing is that's hard. It's like all this 30% of the population that isn't having orgasms. It's not that easy. It's not like, okay, you're right. Like, let's just be comfortable and let's keep each other's body and mind. Because when you're that vulnerable and literally naked, you do things that you may not know that you do to make yourself feel comfortable, whether it's closing your eyes or looking away,
putting the sheets over and turning off all the lights, and you're going, I can't even see anything.
Like,
why am I?
Even kissing, even sometimes you kiss so that like you're not as vulnerable as you would if you're just sitting there. So it takes time to get to that point. But I mean, I definitely want to help women get to that point if they feel like they can.
Right.
And you know, I'm learning every day about my body. But this is kind of what we were gonna talk about, was like kind of owning your dating failures. It's like even your sexual intimate failures, even if you meet a guy, you really like him, and in the bedroom it's just not necessarily vibing. Don't get down on yourself. Don't be like, fuck, is he not into me? And guys too, same thing. Don't be like, shit, she doesn't like this, blah blah blah. But own it, learn from it. Like I always say, it's like, damn, that didn't work, but learn from it and then keep trucking, because eventually you're gonna get so comfortable that shit's gonna blow your mind. Like you're just gonna be like, whoa, I never thought I could mentally be in this peaceful of a space while I'm having sex.
Yeah, and a lot in regards to women, you guys are so much more. The biggest sexual organ that you have is your brain. You guys are so much more. You're so much more built for it to. It has to be in the brain. You guys have to be in the right place. You have to be comfortable. You have to be open. You've got to be, have that level of vulnerability and to have that level of trust.
I agree with that, like on paper, but I think that, like you said before, is like some women just want to get the job done. And as we talked about in our last podcast, is like, if I'm like you're right, if I'm in a good place, I'm just like, let's do this.
See, but they're already dialed into that.
Yeah, you're right.
Those ones are dialed into it. It's it's 2:00 or they're going out with a bunch of friends and they just want a piece and that's what they want. So that's fine. But the overarching thing that I just want to emphasize in this whole thing, in this whole talk, is the fact that it's okay. It's okay if you do or if you don't. But if you're not okay with it, if you're one of those 30%ers that it's not a physical thing, that you have the ability to do that, but you just don't, then it's obviously a mental thing. It's a block.
Totally.
A lot
of
times,
what circumstance is yours.
And a lot of times, most of that has to do with the fact that they have this ego program where they're super duper protective, because they feel as though if they have an orgasm, then they're overly vulnerable. I had a girlfriend long time ago that she didn't. She just said, I haven't had one. I go, you haven't had one? Why? Well, it's because this and this. And she goes, I think I can. I mean, I've gotten pretty close. I've had one on my own, but I haven't had one with a guy.
Obviously.
So obviously that's for her finally getting comfortable enough and having a level of trust enough with me to be able to have one. And then she did. And then she sort of freaked out because she felt overly vulnerable, and we didn't last long after that. And so as trusting as she was with me and where it was going, it just wasn't enough for her. And so I'm hoping that after a while she figured that out. But that's what happens. Out of that 30%, there's physical, and then there's emotional, mental stuff that goes along with that.
Like when I think I'll have hit my sexual peak is when I cry during sex, because I've heard so many stories of women being like, I was so emotional after we had sex. It was so great. And I felt the love and I cried and to me, I'm like, what? Like, honestly, I was probably with the guy for 2 years and he probably saw me cry once. It's like, I don't just cry.
That's not every.
Can you imagine
girl,
those? Is that weird?
Yeah. Well, it's not. It makes sense because it's such an emotional.
Sounds weird as fuck to me.
Well, to you, but you're you, Lex. That's why.
But that's what I'm saying. So when I reach that state, I'm gonna be like, holy shit, put a ring on it.
I don't think you will.
You're the one. You're the one. Or you think I'll be like, why you make me feel like this?
I don't think you will. First of all, yes, I think that'll happen. It would be more like, oh, damn, this is not
I'll
good.
Be like, bye.
Yeah, bye. The second thing is that doesn't happen every single time, and it's just a matter of, again, looking at things in context. A lot of my clients come to me, and it's not just sex, but let's just take that for instance, and they say, it's just I can't get into the rhythm. I can't get. It's just it's not getting any better, or it's not, or I don't know what to do. Or I don't know what I want, or like I just fucking relax. Every person's different. Every situation's different. Just take it for what it is.
You know what my tip is?
Before you say that, all I'm saying is don't.
Sorry.
don't value your relationship based on just the last thing that happened. That's what people do. People say, people have a fight and then they're like, oh, this is terrible. Or people have great sex and they say, oh, this is the love of my life, I'll never leave them. Do not try to resist that. I mean, people do that because that's how we're wired. Because we're wired that way. We're wired to think that reality is just the thing the experience that just happened to us, and that will last forever. That's basically a survival technique. If you can stay away from that and continue to look at things in total, widely, in everything involved in that, then you'll be fine, and you'll be able to compartmentalize it, or put your really great sexual experience or your really crappy one into perspective, into the whole thing, and not give it too much weight. That's all I'm saying.
I think that if you're having trouble being intimate with someone, maybe you're one of these women who isn't having an orgasm, there's a few things you can do. I think pay attention to your relationship with the dude you're being intimate outside of the bedroom. You know, maybe try to get a little bit closer in those aspects. Like, yeah, closer and comfortable is going to be the best medicine, but even connect on something that maybe he or she doesn't connect with anybody on. So it's like cool to have those little itty bitty gems that both of you can hold on to, and then you pull it out in the bedroom and it's kind of like this hot little secret. But also I think on each end is if you're having intimate relations with someone and it doesn't feel like you're there to please them, because you think about what is the act of sex. Sex is, like feeling good and being intimate with someone and reaching a finish line, which, yes, is the orgasm, but it should be fun. Like every moment of the sexual time should feel good, right? And I feel like a lot of people go about sex though in different like scenes or stations, which like it'll be feeling good, you'll be kind of getting closer and closer to being ready to actually like start having sex, and then you just kind of break and you let him do something that you don't really like for a little bit because it's his turn, and then maybe you turn it around.
What are you referring to?
No,
if you saw what you did subconsciously with your hand at that moment on the video, I think we know what we're talking about here.
No, but you get what I'm saying. Is like you do that. Not 100% of anyone's sexual experience, unless it is great, and you're not 100% just being like receiving what you want, I guess is how I would put it.
Great sex is flow, isn't it?
If you come into the bedroom that day or that night being like, I'm going to please the hell out of my man, or I'm going to please the hell out of my girl, it's going to come together. Like that is the best medicine. The best medicine is going into it not with you in mind, not with your orgasm in mind, but being like, I'm so stoked to have an orgasm, but I can't wait to get her or him to theirs, because that feels good. Because then you're just like, hell yeah, like we're vibing. It's like a good conversation. You can go back and forth and you have, a beginning, a middle, and an end, but it all feels good and it all stacks up and it's all knowledge on top of knowledge. So I think that for my last piece of advice to ladies that aren't having orgasms, don't put up with that, because if you put up with it for a while, the guy's going to get used to not giving you an orgasm. So you got to go in there with, the fucking audacity to win. Is how I would
audacity
say
to win should be the title of the podcast, I think. What is the audacity
the big
to
O,
win?
The audacity to win. I just think don't settle for less. You should be having an orgasm. I know I get it not every single time, but ladies, you should be having an orgasm 87%.
Well, if you want to. I mean, if you're if you're tired or whatever, then that's fine. And again, it's the same thing with a guy. But most of again, two things. One thing to end this, I want to say two things. The first thing is that there are two types of orgasm. There's the go out and hit it, Tinder orgasm. I just want to go out and get laid. And then there's the intimate, deep connection orgasm. And those are, we're talking about two different ones. So don't confuse those two. And most of the time we the needle in our show sort of goes towards the intimate relationship thing, because that's really the ultimate goal. I hope, and I know that you do too, is that people find those really good, solid, intimate relationships, and they have like deep, fulfilling experiences, because it's all about experience. When you're on your deathbed and you got a pile of money next to you or whatever the case may be, when you think back, you're going to think back on the trips you went on and the people that you were with and the friends that you had and the
orgasms you had
and the orgasms and the barbecues that you went to and all. You're not going to think about, your accounting and how much money you're going to leave or how big or how cool your coffin's going to be. You're not going to be thinking about that shit. So it's all about experience, and it's a matter of just chill, just sit back and chill and just take things for what they are, and don't put too much emphasis on that last thing that happened. Look at things in a broader perspective.
Right. Fight with audacity, ladies. You get that orgasm.
I still don't really truly understand the full concept of that, but we'll go into that further.
Yeah,
so you can go to javabud.com like we always say, and you can see the videos and the podcasts and stuff. My book is out, and you can go. It's Surrounded by Idiots, and you can go on javabud.com and click. It's also on Amazon, and it's in Kindle version, and it's actually part of that Amazon free library thing too, if you want to go on that. And so you can do that and see any of our other podcasts or the videos for the podcast. Those are on there as well. And then you can reach Lexi at crucialawareness.com.
Lexi at crucialawareness.com. So I'm working with like a business consultant. This is just really quick for entrepreneurs. And she's like, all right, what do you have to offer to clients? And you've obviously probably heard this a million times. Like, what is your free program or your free course that you're offering to get them to like you? That way they'll follow you and then they'll buy your programs that you're going to start selling. And I'm like, well, fuck, I have like over 100 podcast episodes. It's just free fucking advice that I don't get paid for. So to me, I'm just like, well, just send them to the podcast. Like, that's my free shit, But I am working on some vlogs that are basically going to be the little cleaner version, shorter, cleaner version of the podcast when I throw out my little gems. And I'm going to just try to accumulate them into some free dope advice for you guys.
Oh,
so
there you
I'll
go.
just call it
free
advice.
dope. Just call it free dope, and then you get a lot of attention.
Oh, for sure.
Just get the free
All right.
dope
It's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you. I
Always
needed that. I really did need to have that conversation.
Good. I'm glad. I figured as
It's
much.
like an orgasm.
Because you said,
I'm
right?
good.
You're like, you're reaching for your smoke, and you're kind of squirming in
I
your chair.
am
I'm
ready for some shit.
All right, well done. I feel pretty good about that, too.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Peace out.